Welcome to Rubberband Live, the Australian recruitment and talent acquisition vodcast and podcast. I am Eden Haddock, your host and the creator of Rubberband, the recruitment network for all. Let's go live. Hello everyone, and we are live. Welcome to today's edition of Rubberband Live. Today we're talking talent, recruitment and creativity, a winning combo. Now, before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I live and work on, the Wadda and Jar Jar Warring people. I recognise their continuing connection to the land and waterways. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and I would like to extend this to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Welcome today. I am so excited to be talking creativity and to be joined by our panel, Shay Duldig, Gavin Lamb and Claire Aldridge. Welcome panel. How are you today?
Hey, Eden.
So great to see the three of you, and so great to see some creativity in the backgrounds there as well. I see a piano, I see painting. This is really exciting. So let's start by introducing each panel member. Shay, tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us a quick summary of who you are, and a little bit about your work and your role as well. Let's hear all about Shay.
Hi, everybody, and thank you so much, Eden, for inviting me along, and lovely to be part of this panel with Gavin and Claire. My name is Shay Duldig, and I am the CEO and founder of Basecamp Consulting. It's a recruitment and consulting organization. For want of a better word, we're a boutique organization. We're very agile. We work with our clients very much in a partnership model. So it's very much getting to understand what they need, as well as our candidates. When I say clients, it's always including with candidates as well. I don't distinguish a client and a candidate in the sense that one is on a higher level than the other. They're equally important to us. A little bit about me. I paint. So one of the things I learned through my life was that you have to have coping skills to help you get through different challenges that might be thrown at you. And my painting has been a massive part of it. When we had the office, my painting was all over there. Nobody had the right to say anything. I was the CEO, so I could put painting up.
Oh, how fabulous. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Shay, and welcome today. We're so excited to have you here. Up next, Gavin. Tell us all about you, Gavin. Tell us about your role, your work, and all about who is Gavin Lamb.
Thanks, Eden. And yeah, likewise, really excited to be talking about a really passionate topic, something that I love. I've been in HR tech for 6 years now on the sales side of things. So I work for Video My Job as an account executive, who are an amazing HR technology platform, and we partner with organizations to help them uncover employee stories and showcase this, the secret sauce inside every organization is their people, and so many amazing stories that go untold, and we're helping organizations to tap into that and share that with everybody, outside of the company. So yeah, my passion is photography, and it's something I've been doing for quite a while now. It knowingly or unknowingly started with my mother, who was a passionate photographer in the film days of photography. So I was fortunate enough to land a start in my career with Canon, and just being naturally surrounded by all of these incredible images all the time. There's quite a few photographers in the staff at Canon that tend to gravitate towards that sort of company, and a healthy employee discount to help kickstart the addiction into lenses and different camera bodies. But yeah, it's been a really, really great hobby.
How fabulous.
40 years, and I'm excited to talk about the connection.
That is so fabulous. I think what I love, Gavin, is that, that you've got that passion for creativity in your personal life, but you also work for a business that embraces creativity. That's what it's all about. So I can't wait to discuss that in greater detail. And our third panelist, Claire, welcome today. Tell us all about yourself, Claire. You're incredibly creative. I've been following your creative journey through the Rubberband network, so I'm excited to have you here. Tell us about your work and tell us about your creativity as well.
Cool, thank you. So I work in recruitment. I've been in recruitment for on and off about 7-8 years. So where do I start? So I've got a huge background of work. I was a bouncer for a really long time. I was a personal trainer running my own business. I was actually a photographer myself as well, Gavin, for a little bit of time. I've done everything you can think of. And so, but throughout that whole phase, I did a lot of recruitment and everything like that. So both agency, internal recruitment, a little bit of RPO model. And I guess for me, what my main passion, I should say, is music. So I get that from my dad. So my dad was actually quite well known in Adelaide in the music scene back in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, so did a whole bunch of adverts and jingles and things like that, and had a couple of bands, and I've just sort of kept that alive. But my stage name is Danica Hira, and I'm on Spotify, so I've got a couple of tracks that are out. But at the moment, I'm really focusing on my own business development. So I created my own little agency called We Know Recruitment, and just working with a couple of clients at the moment, obviously continuing through that recruitment, and also have a little bit of a side to that business, not just the traditional recruitment, but also candidate care. So helping them prep them up with, pre-interview type stuff, with resumes, helping them with a little bit of leadership consultancy, and just a whole bunch of things that I love to do.
How fabulous. And so interesting about your father. One of my closest friends used to sing jingles in the 80s as well. They probably know each other.
Yeah, right.
But I just love that you're bringing that creativity into your working life as well. And that's something that I really want us to explore today. But let's talk about creativity. And I'm going to go around the room, around the table, or around the panel, I suppose. And I'm interested to hear, Shay, I'll start with you. Why is creativity important in your personal life? Why is it something that you really connect to?
I think with me being, my journey started in South Africa. I was in South Africa, had to leave in a hurry. My father was quite political, went to England, very much under political asylum, then grew up in England and then came to Australia. So everywhere I've gone has been challenges, whether it's challenges as a 7-year-old trying to navigate your way through all the changes that are happening in your external world, challenges of moving countries, making new friends, all of that. And the one thing I found is that, and I think I mentioned it prior to us coming live, was that creativity links very closely to resilience. So you find ways to adapt, you find ways to, befriend people, to actually make your life your own. And I think with me, it was the way of handling the stress and the anxiety that goes with all of that, because there's an underlying anxiety that comes along with that. And splashing paint onto a canvas or onto, just a board or something like, or drawing, was a way of me getting rid of some of the anxiety and grounding myself, and then move. So that's why it's always been important to me all my life, was this whole ability to have this external way, this way of just, expressing myself, expressing my anxiety, expressing my circumstances, to just splash paint on a canvas, as I say. If you're splashing paint, you're getting dirty, because you're getting dirty. And there's nothing, like, if you think about our lives, everything is very controlled.
Yes.
Everything's controlled. You get up in the morning, you do your work, you go everywhere you go, controlled. Doing something like that, that's totally out of control. Yeah, so I don't ski, I don't do anything dangerous. That's my danger. So So I think creativity in so taking that into my work, for example, and is that where you wanted me to go with this? Talking about
We
work?
might go into work in a moment. What I really connect with there, I love that you talk about and use the term splashing paint onto a canvas or onto a board, because some people feel that creativity, you are born with it. You are either creative or you're not. And I don't believe that at all. I believe, we have different sides to our brains, and sometimes it can just be that freedom of expression to be able to let go and to throw paint onto a canvas or onto a piece of board and be able to express, and the benefits that that can have to your mental health. And as you said, your resilience. Gavin, tell me, in your personal life, why is creativity important to you, and how do you express creativity in your personal life?
Yeah, so for me, it's really about two things. It's perspective. So as a lot of people will tell you about photography, you could have the best gear in the world and still take like pretty ordinary photos, like versus you could have really entry-level gear, and it matters so much more about your eye and the things that you're looking for, like being able to look at sort of mundane everyday objects and find beauty in whether it's the lighting or like being able to tell a story with something that's just relatively regular or ordinary, and you would otherwise kind of look past it. So I think that helps quite a lot, is sort of forcing your mind into that sort of perspective, but also in terms of like slowing down. I'm a pretty frantic, fast-paced, lots of things on the go at all times kind of person. And there's quite few things in my life that actually get me to slow down. And photography has always been one of those things where I've been able to take a breath and be really sort of focused and mindful about composing a shot or thinking about like a concept of creativity that I'd like to do. So much so that my most recent camera edition has actually been a 10-year-old digital camera, because we're now seeing this return to sort of retro technology, which sounds ridiculous to say that 10 years ago. But yeah, I mean, there's a real boom in film photography now, and now returning to these older digital cameras because, they don't take 6,000 snaps in a second, and it does take a little while to sort of boot the camera up, and you just have to be a bit more focused with it. So an appreciation for the little things and taking a bit of a breath. It's almost like meditation in a sense, where it focuses my mind and gets me to slow down a bit.
Absolutely. And what I love about what you say there is photography is accessible. You don't need to have all of that equipment. We all have cameras on our phones these days, and it could just be that moment where you step outside and you look at a plant, or you see your cat or a bird in the tree, and just take that photo and be in that moment and reflect back on that moment. It's really powerful. And it
my
does.
favorite photos are just mobile phone photos, like on your smartphone camera. So absolutely.
100%. And it can be for you. It doesn't need to be something that you share on Instagram or, you put out there into the universe. It can just be something that you can reflect on, that moment of creativity and that moment of beauty that you've used that other side of your brain. I love that, Gavin. That was great. Claire, tell me yourself, why is creativity important in your personal life, and how do you express?
Look, I think there's so many points to it. I think being a creative person, I guess it can be quite difficult when you're a part of the corporate world. So, to an extent, unless, you're working solely as an artist, or you're working solely, in that field where you get to be creative, or you get to be around it, more often than not, we don't have the luxury to be able to be in a role that is fully expressive. And so we're stuck in a sort of this corporate push-pull kind of feel where, we have to have this persona, we have to have, a certain way that we behave, a certain way that we talk, and it's very much driven by our leaders and the people that we work for. And I think that can be really difficult, especially for people that, need that self-expression. And, you know, when you are in the corporate world, you're expected to be just another number, you know, a replicate of this particular person that, you know, fits the standard box of, you know, a recruiter or, you know, a salesperson or a CEO or whatever it is that you are. And it's hard to stay in that persona all the time, and you need to have the ability to, you know, express. And I personally, for myself, in my working, you know, throughout the years, a number of different roles, I almost felt a little bit stuck because I wanted that self-expression, but while being in this, you know, one size fits all kind of box and expecting to be like that. And even all the way back to school for me, I was like, but this isn't for me. This doesn't feel organic. This doesn't feel like an expression of myself. And I think that, you know, growth is fluid. We're never going to be the same person all the time. And in that is creativity in itself. You know, you need to be able to go with the flow and grow. And I think creativity and using different mediums for your creativity helps you grow, and it helps you to find your place in the world and your identity that's separate from the social norms or, you know, whatnot. And it can actually be a little bit difficult because if you are working with people who don't have that creative state of mind, you're going to always feel like you're not accepted, or you know, it's this push-pull between acceptance but also being an individual, and it can be quite difficult. But when you're doing your art, you know, there's an element of safe risk where, you know, you're able to just be yourself unapologetically and, you know, just sort of let loose.
Absolutely. It's that authenticity of your true being that you're able to express. An interesting point you raised there is around, you know, I suppose the corporate world and how conservative it can be and how process driven it can be and very black and white. I do agree that, you know, that's the way organizations are structured. The interesting thing is LinkedIn recently surveyed, well, they didn't survey actually, they looked at job advertisements globally, and the number one skill set for 2 years running was creativity that organizations look for. But the challenge is, do they embrace the creative mindset in the work?
I don't think they know what to do with it. I think they're wanting that. They know that it's there. They know that it is super important in the workplace, but they don't really know what to do with it once they've got it. You know,
Interesting.
for me, what I've found, you know, that they have these ideologies that, you know, we need creative people. We want people to bring in, you know, a new flavor, or, you know, create an open space that we're able to relook at processes or look at how we can move things around. But it's a really hard conversation to have, you know, as somebody coming in with that creativity, to have those kind of very honest conversations with people like CEOs or the executives, because they want it, but they don't know how to hear it or take it as constructive criticism quite often. And then there becomes this sort of push-pull effect where it's just sort of butting heads. So you've got somebody who's quite conservative, doesn't really know what to do with the creativity side of things, but it's so important. And I think that we need to have those open conversations about how do we actually merge the two, because it's great to really want it, but how do we make it work?
Organization, Shay, please.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was going to say it goes back to, and you're right, you know, the umbrella is we want people to be creative. We want to bring more creative people into our organizations. And that's when the conversation goes around culture. And everybody talks about, oh, we have this great culture. We have this creative culture. We have this engaged culture. And once people come in, they don't know how to actually engage the person to bring that creativity in. They'll talk about it, they'll have the team creativity, but they don't have that individual spark. And I think you're right in many ways, Claire. We want it, we know we got it. How do we actually take it to that next step? And it comes down to that engagement piece. Each of us here are engaged in our business on different levels, not just on one level. We don't engage. You don't go in and you sit in a team in a little box and stay there. You know, you engage on different levels. So you bring that creativity to those conversations. And people look for creativity and they think it has to be a big splash. And it's not. Sometimes it's a small part of the whole conversation. And again, it comes down to that culture piece and then moving beyond that culture into that engagement piece.
I agree. I feel more broadly, organizations want innovation. And we all know that creativity leads to innovation. But innovation has a change component, and organizations are scared of change. And even the change management approach in organizations is very methodical, and there is a lot of process around it. So you're right, Claire, there's a push and pull. We want to innovate. We want to look at doing things differently, but we want to put a process behind that. We don't want people just to be able to be expressing or coming up with ideas. We want to have a real method around creativity because we're afraid of change. It's a very interesting scenario. I want to focus now really on the recruitment and talent acquisition industry, which we all work in. Shay, how important do you feel it is to be creative in recruitment or talent acquisition?
I think it's very, very important. I think that people forget that we're dealing, each client is different, each candidate, and I'm going to use those distinctions, each candidate is different and each role is different. So when you're approaching any kind of recruitment process or talent acquisition, you need to be creative in how you talk about that company, how you talk about the role, how you talk about the client. That's on the base level. But I think creativity goes further than that. It's that engagement piece, both with the hirer and the hiree, for want of better words. It's expressing to a client that this candidate can bring more to the table and really talking about what else they can bring. I think it's very easy to do that bum on a seat, see job, fill job. Let's just see job, fill job, and off we go. But if you're really interested in how your clients and how the organizations you work with develop and how your candidates' careers develop, you have to be creative in getting those connections together. You've got to make sure that you have a full understanding, open-mindedness. And when we talk about creativity, we forget that we also should be talking about that open-mindedness when you're looking at things. Creativity is very much linked in that. And again, innovation is part of that. So every team, when you add into a team, you're looking at not just the team per se, how they are right now, but you're looking at where that team's going to develop to. And that is all about vision, all about creativity, imagination, because it's not the now, it's what the future is going to be like. And every team needs that development.
Absolutely. It's that culture enhancement of an organization, out of the box thinking that leads to connection, and connection leads to culture. So I agree 100%, Shay. Gavin, tell me, you work in the talent tech space. How important do you feel, and I imagine this is a conversation that comes up quite a lot with your clients, how important is creativity within the recruitment and talent acquisition industry from a HR tech perspective?
It's absolutely crucial. And I think from the get-go, there are just so many similarities between recruitment and those in recruitment and us in sales. Like there's alignment, at the end of the day, recruitment is selling companies to candidates, and then likewise internally selling candidates to hiring managers, trying to get over any concerns or hesitations or objections that they have. And for anybody who's in agency land, of which I saw that poll, Eden, there was quite a few. It's even closer again, because at the same time that they're doing the day-to-day of their job, they're also working on business development and making sure that the brand is out there. So, I speak to lots of people in talent at Video My Job, and everybody's at a different sort of position. I can't assume going into any single recall what circumstances they're in. We're seeing, unfortunately, some talent teams being impacted by downturn, and then somebody else that I speak to the very next day may be busier than ever. So, I think creativity is essential to both my own role, but anybody in talent, because you have to go into this with an open mind. Like the best salespeople excel not because they go in with a pre-decided agenda. It's because we're there to listen, and the conversation sort of dictates what the solution ends up looking like. Like Video My Job is a platform platform, how it's applied, limited by the client's ability to kind of see the solution and work with the parties inside the organization. So when we're putting together like a concept of what the return on investment looks like, or helping them to envision how they're actually going to implement a solution, it's different every single time. Some people are using it for job ads. Other people are telling employee stories.
Yeah.
Some clients are using it purely for internal purposes to help with employee engagement and advocacy. So yeah, the beauty of a platform is that it's not a particularly prescribed solution, and it allows me to really understand what their needs and challenges are, and then bring that alignment between the two.
Absolutely. You're taking them on a creative journey with you. So that's wonderful. Claire, tell me, as someone that works in recruitment, but also the creative field, how important do you feel it is to be creative in recruitment or talent acquisition?
It's pivotal. There's no two ways about it. I think, look, especially when, I don't know, I feel like over the last, and not just because of COVID, but, you know, over the last sort of 5 years, we've seen so many changes just overall in our world that, you know, it used to be, you know, oh, the 80s were just the 80s, the 90s were just the 90s, you know, and then slowly we had, you know, a lot of trends change. But I just feel like there's been so many changes to trends in the last just couple of years. Like it's really just a sped up, like it's downhill. And you know, I think with that you need to be agile in the way that you approach things, and you know, agility and strategy all runs into that creativity, because at the end of the day it's a creation of, you know, solutions. It's a creation of you know, different methods, and we need that. We need to be able to be agile to get the solutions that we want. There's not always going to be the same questions that are asked, so we need the answers for them. You know, we need to create those answers for those questions that haven't been asked before. You know, I think it's super important when building, you know, real solid personalized relationships and tapping into their individuality, whether that's you know, as you said, Shay, either, you know, a client or a candidate. You know, candidates want to feel heard. They want to feel like you know, they're recognized for their own talents, not just, you know, who they are on a piece of paper. They want to feel like they're being represented correctly. You know, and depending on what role they're going for, you know, at the end of the day, if we're representing a, you know, a candidate as an accountant, it's going to be very strategy, you know, process focused. It's going to be very numbers, very logical. Whereas if we're, you know, representing a candidate to be a, I don't know, a dog groomer, then, you know, we're going to have to represent them in a different way. And, you know, these conventional strategies aren't going to work, because there's just so many nuances with the people that we deal with. And at the end of the day, we're dealing with people, and not every one person is going to be the same. They're going to need representation to be different. They're going to need, you know, generations are changing. Their expectations are changing. You know, it's a digital world. You know, a lot of kids are sitting there and they're playing on their PlayStation, and they're being, you know, you know, imagination and using, you know, their own creativity. Then we need to present that to them, you know, as a way to win them over, you know. And I just think it's overall very important.
Absolutely. Shay, tell me, if you were talking to a CEO or a leadership team about what the benefits of being creative at work are, what are the big benefits? How would you sell it to an organization to say you need to be embracing creativity in your workplace? What would be the big benefits?
I think, firstly, innovation, as you mentioned earlier. You can't, if you're only listening to one person or one idea and you're only going down that road, you're not going to be able to grow. So, you know, if we were to just using the images of a train will only go from A to B to C to D. You know, it's only going one way. It's not even going backwards. You know, it's going one way, and you're going to end up in just one spot. But if you look at anything else, you know, a car can go different ways. If you're looking at a team and you're looking at innovation and creativity, it's all about goals. How do we get to those goals? And the goal is not just about the organization. It's not just about the organization. The goals are also about the careers of the people. And Claire, you're right. You know, people forget that the person that turns up to work is merely one persona of that person. There's so much more that person has to give to the team, to the company, to the industry they're in. Yeah. And if you sort of think back on all those things that have been developed through the years, it's often somebody sitting at their desk thinking, why not? Why can't I? Yeah. And so when I talk to CEOs and I talk to people about, and I deal a lot with scale up companies. So, startups to scale ups. I've found that apparently that's one of my niches. God knows how, but that happens. And I talk to them about the importance of, asking the what next. Yeah, you're sitting in a team and you're sitting in a team meeting and somebody comes up with, oh, we can't do that. It's the why not. You keep asking the why not, you will actually get through it, because people can only put up 3 blocks to a why not. Then they stop. Then they start thinking about the why. How can I make it work? And in a team situation, an organization, if you keep asking the why not, you'll get much bigger, much better growth, not just for yourself, but for the people that work in that organization. Going back, all of us in different ways, we deal with people. People are not one size fits all. We try, accounting teams, they try one size fits all, but even each accounting team is different. It has its own personality. It has its own spark. And that's because of the people in that team. One of the things that came through really came through strongly through COVID was the difference between a boss and a leader.
Yes.
Yeah. And the leader is the creative one.
Yeah.
So when I'm talking to organizations, I talk about educating, helping, inspiring their leaders to be leaders, not bosses.
100%.
Yeah. And that's where the creativity comes in.
Absolutely. Gavin, when you're talking to leaders in organizations or CEOs from a sales perspective, how do you sell the benefits of embracing creativity?
Yeah, it's really about, I guess, helping them get what they want at the end of the day, right? So helping them to get buy-in from others is a particularly creative process, because there has to be that appreciation for different stakeholders and the different concerns and needs that they're going to have. So by embracing that creativity, when you're talking about any sort of solution, no one buys anything based on the facts and the spec sheet, or like the little bits and pieces of terms of your features. It's about that so what moment of what it's actually going to do. And you do need that element of creativity. Some people are quite literal, so you'll need to have supporting I guess figures or illustrations to be able to help bring them along on that journey as well. And then other people are going to want the human connection. So being able to tell them, the not necessarily tangible benefits of a product. Not everything can be distilled down to dollars and cents, as much as there's incredibly smart people and consulting organizations out there who would try and sort of model these things. Some of it is quite intangible. So I think it comes down to helping them to understand who they're actually working with internally to get them the win that they want. Like, they're all coming because they have some sort of problem that they want to overcome. And creativity is always the solution in terms of how we sort of bundle this up into an accessible concept that others can kind of get on board with and put their support behind. That typically dictates whether or not a project gets up or sits on the cutting room floor, kind of thing.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. Claire, tell me, if you were to be selling creativity to one of your clients in the recruitment world, how would you explain the benefits? How would you get them on board? How would you influence them to really embrace creativity at work?
Yeah, look, I think some great points have already been touched on. But, I think it's hard because I guess you have to already have an in to have that conversation, with your client. So they have to be ready to receive that. And I think personally for me, that has come down to at a time when nothing else has worked. They've exhausted their own processes. They've tried the logical road. They've tried the very methodical kind of, we always follow these processes. But I think to actually have that growth, they need to be ready to receive it. Because quite often, I have found that there has been pushback. And it depends on who you're working with. So if you're working directly with just a hiring manager who, maybe doesn't have as much understanding of the recruitment process or doesn't see the value in it, or, it's just part of a process and it's only 1% of their job, when they're dealing with other things and they're trying to, prioritize, I think that recruitment can be sort of a bit of a throwaway thing, like that doesn't, just hire someone. It doesn't really have to be, doesn't have to be much to it. Just get somebody, we'll interview them and stuff. And I think when it's hard and you don't want to push people for things that they're not ready for. So when you get to a wall and you meet that wall and you say, okay, well, we've tried these things, let's talk about some of your challenges that, we've seen. Perhaps we can try this, we need to be a little bit more creative in this space. And then, using those market insights and, some of the strategies that you've used before and things like that, you can kind of leverage, to create a bit of an argument so that they understand. But I've worked with a lot of hiring managers who they haven't been given that training, by upper management or from like a higher up leadership level. They just don't see the value in it. So I think if you have the opportunity to be able to sit down and have a very honest conversation with, the CEO and right up the top of the rank to say, look, it's hard. A lot of people don't want to hear it. As I said, if they're not ready for the but it definitely funnels down, and I think that it's super important for leaders and executives to understand that yes, you hire somebody, you're paying them, $50, $60, $130,000 a year to do their specific job. But as I said before, there's so much growth, people change, people's their hobbies change, that their interests change. And if you keep them in that box and they wonder why they can't retain their employees, it's because they've been boxed in this one thing, and they go, but I'm bored, or I'm not feeling like I'm able to speak up, or I can't leverage any creativity into this here, and I don't know what I'm capable of because I haven't been given the opportunity to explore that within my current role. And I think so that it's just as important for that creativity conversation to have in a employee retention side of things, not just in the actual recruitment of new people. Because if you're recruiting, if you suddenly go, aha, we need somebody creative, and you hire a marketing consultant or somebody like that, you have all of these other employees that are sitting there going, I had this idea to do this video, to do this, and I spoke to my manager and it was poo-pooed away, and now they've hired someone, they're paying someone to do something that I really, really have the burning desire to do. And then you have disgruntled people. So I think having that open conversation within the organization in some of your meetings, sit there and talk creative, bounce back and forth about some strategies before you look at hiring externally for, that creative side of things.
It's such an interesting conversation. I don't think there is any leader that wouldn't have a concern on retention. They want to retain their top talent. I don't think there's any leader out there that doesn't understand when it comes to engagement, how engagement leads to productivity and the success of an organization. Yeah. So I think those conversations, that in itself, that retention, developing your team and the importance of developing your team and giving them those opportunities to step outside of the box will lead to greater engagement, will lead to better retention. So trying to find the data around that within your organization can really help trigger those conversations. We've all been in the situation where we've had that pushback from hiring managers. It's not all about bringing more creative people into your organization. It's embracing it within your organization. And it can be something very simple of just giving someone a challenge to think outside the box and the impact that can have on that person because they feel they're getting the opportunity for growth and development. It's so important, and it's such a really interesting conversation. Now, I've had this come up many times when I've talked about creativity. Can anyone be creative? A lot of people believe you're either born with it or you're not. Shay, tell me, for anyone out there that doesn't feel they're creative, can they be creative?
I think everybody can be creative. And, just while we were talking there for a second, I had a client who took over a new role as a CFO. And one of the things I always say to my clients, ask the question, ask your team, what are they doing? And he noticed that one of his team was entering the data into this thing, then the same data into here, and the same data into here. And it was like repetitive. And she was doing that every day, all day. And he said to her, how can you improve it? And she actually came up with a very creative way. So when you talk about creativity, it's not just about painting or music or photography or whatever else. It's also about being creative in your role to make your role better, make things better. And I think that's where creativity comes in. Everybody can be creative. You know, you don't have to be good at something. You just have to want to do it. You know, like I love painting. And I was shocked when people came out when, Eden, when you said to me, oh, I want to talk to you about your painting. I was like, oh my God, that really? You want to talk to me about that? Some of my stuff is just because I want to throw paint on a canvas. I want to do something. It doesn't have to be good. I don't want to be Van Gogh. I don't want to be Michelangelo. I want to be me. And being me is doing what I do. And I think everybody can be me. Yeah. I think it was Maya, I forget her surname. She said, you got to belong to yourself. And I think it's the same with creativity. You got to be creative with yourself before you can be creative with others. And don't let people judge your creativity. So yes, everybody can be creative. Everybody's got something in them. You've got a book in you. You've got a photo in you. You've got a song in you. You've got a painting in you. You've got something in you that will just talk about and be you.
Yes. 100%.
Don't try and be, in this competitive world we live in, your photography, Gavin, it's you, it's your photography. It's looking through your eyes. It's not looking through my eyes. It's not looking through the eyes of some other photographer. It's not a competition. Yeah. Clay, your music, amazing, fantastic, because it's you. It's not anybody else's music. You listen to Eminem and you listen to Adele, completely different. They're being them.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's the same thing. Everybody can be you. And that's where creativity comes in.
Wonderful advice, Shay. Thank you. Gav, can anyone be creative, or are you born with it?
Absolutely, anyone can be creative. My early photos will absolutely attest to the fact that I was not born with photographic skill, and it was something that I had to learn over time, and I'm still learning. I think the beauty of creativity is that it's forever a staircase that you take another step up. Like Shay said, there's so many different avenues that you can go down, and even when you do specialize in any one particular area, there's so much depth to each of those fields, like music or art. Expressionism versus like trying to capture real life is just so much different that you could go down any one tangent. And I think Canon said it best way back in the day. They had an ad that I think still is probably in the top 3 ads I think I've ever seen, that essentially crystallized like no one sees it like you do. And again, like to what Shay said, like I take photos that capture my attention. I love jets, I love motorsports, I love nature, but I'm not that great at capturing a portrait. Yet we had an incredibly talented wedding photographer, and her ability to just capture moments in time of people connecting is unparalleled. So within creativity, there are layers upon layers. And I think the most important thing to not set yourself up for failure is comparison. Often they say comparison can be the death of creativity, because you can always look at something and go, oh, well, that's so much better than anything I could ever do, or so much better than what I have just done. But that's not to say that what you have done isn't unique in a different sort of way. I think a lot of creatives fall into that imposter syndrome. I know I definitely had a double take when you said, hey, I want to talk to you about creativity and your photography. Just not letting yourself fall into that trap of thinking that it has to be a competition. Sure, you can enter competitions. That's an element of creativity you can go down too. But the satisfaction that you get out of it is the biggest prize.
I love it. Thank you. Claire, yourself, do you feel anyone can be creative, or do you feel people are born creative?
Look, I'd love to throw in a curveball, but I think we've gauged the common consensus here is that yes, everybody can be creative. And I think, you don't have to overcomplicate it. Like at the end of the
Mm.
day, have you ever had an idea? Have you ever had a concept? Have you ever come up with a solution? Have you ever suggested something? That's creative. That's creativity in itself. And I think everybody's born with the ability to be creative, and I think we do it every day, and we don't recognize the little ways that we're creative. Put a little bit of nutmeg on my whatever I'm eating today, creative. Like but
Yeah.
I think we see all of these people, and we see so much social media. We see all these people doing these great, amazing, huge things, painting the sides of skyscrapers, or creating these new paintings that are made out of geodes and things like that. And we go, oh, like, I really wish that I could do that, or I wish I came up with that idea. But I think the same points that you guys were making, that you can't make that comparison, and we're creative in our own little ways, and I don't think there's any reason to overcomplicate it. And I think creativity has been sold in this grandeur way where, you have to do these amazing, huge gestures of creativity to be considered somebody who's creative. But we're all creative by nature. We have our own thoughts. We're unique. We've got our own story. We've got our own, everything that we've been through, every step that we've taken in our lives has created this unique being. And I think that our ability to express that, in a way that is unique to us is a version of creativity.
100%. I feel on a personal level I can't draw and I can't paint a realistic painting. So I don't have that talent when it comes to art, but I can go out into my garden, or I can buy bunches of flowers and I can create something absolutely beautiful that gives me a sense of pride and a sense of connection and gives me that outlet. And I think that's the advice for everyone out there. You don't have to be the world's best musician, the world's best photographer, the world's best painter, the world's best florist in my case. It's about self-expression. It's about self-care and being able to be kind to yourself, because without creativity, you will be stuck, you will be bored, you will be stressed. It impacts your mental health. When you embrace it, you will be better in every element of your life. You'll be happier in every element of your life, in your personal life, in your work life. So we are out of time today. I just want to thank the three of you. This is a passion of mine, so I could have gone on for another 2 hours talking to you, and it is so wonderful to be connecting with three like-minded people. So thank you. I really appreciate it, and look forward to seeing more of your creative journeys online. Anyone out there that hasn't joined Rubberband yet, we do have a channel where we showcase our creative outlets. As I said, you don't need to be super talented to share what you do, but please do embrace it. Thanks again, Shay, Gavin, and Claire.
Thanks,
Have a lovely
Eden.
afternoon.
Thanks, Eden.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.